Welcome into the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. Let's start with some news around DeMarcus Robinson that hit on Thursday. He has re-signed with the Kansas City Chiefs on a one-year deal worth just over $1 million, $1.13 million to be exact. If you round up, it's 1.27, I believe. But he is back in the fold at the wide receiver position for the Kansas City Chiefs. I thought he would walk. I thought the Chiefs were going to let him hit free agency and sign elsewhere, which maybe they did, and the market just wasn't there for him because lower salary cap number. D-Rob kind of finished last year not so great, so both sides decided to come back together, and he is back with Kansas City, and he provides good depth. He provides reliability in terms of the injury side of things. He's certainly not the most consistent player at the wide receiver position that I've ever seen, but unlike a Sammy Watkins, for example, he's always available. He's always out there. This was too cheap of an opportunity to pass up on if you are Brett Veach, if you are the Kansas City Chiefs, because again, I'm not going to sit here and be like, boom, D-Rob, he could be your number 2 receiver behind Tyreek Hill, but can he be a number 3, a number 4? He's been that at times in his career with Kansas City. His numbers as a whole, considering he was, probably your 4th or 5 option on offense behind Kelsey, Hill, and Watkins when he was out there, and at times Hardman as well, and even Byron Pringle at the end of the year. Still decent, right? 45 catches, had almost 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. We've seen him have big games before as well. I go back to that Raiders game a couple of years ago when he absolutely torched Oakland at the time, back in the 2019 season. I think that was week 2 of the season. He's had big games in his career, but more importantly, what does this do? Cheap, reliable in terms of health, knows the system, doesn't need to come in and be your number 2 and maybe not even your number 3 receiver, and this does not limit you from going out and signing another big-time receiver or drafting one as well. I think all around this is a pretty good deal for both sides. What is your one-word reaction to re-signing DeMarcus Robinson? Go ahead and comment now on this one. My one word, and really I have a couple in mind, but my main one is value. I just think this was a bit of a surprise to Kansas City. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say they thought he'd get $5-6 million on the open market, but I thought a team might throw $3-4 million at him. There's a lot of teams with a lot of cap space that could use an experienced receiver like DeMarcus Robinson, and he comes back for just over $1 million, the minimum contract for DeMarcus. I mean, that's a good value if you ask me. My other word, surprised. Again, I thought that he would get poached and he would look for an opportunity on another team, especially since at times he's kind of gotten buried on the depth chart with Kansas City. But assuming Sammy Watkins does not return, there's an opportunity. He's your wide receiver 3. I think right now him and Byron Pringle would probably compete for that role. We saw Pringle get more opportunities down the stretch last year, especially in the playoffs. So I think that if you're Kansas City, you don't just plug in D-Rob as your number 3 guy there. I still think the Chiefs could upgrade at wide receiver 2 in the NFL draft if they want to, or even in free agency, which we know they tried to do when they tried to sign JuJu Smith-Schuster. So you get DeMarcus Robinson back. You got Pringle back on the tender as well. Things are starting to round into form at the wide receiver position. I do think there's room for one more name if they want to go that route in free agency or in the NFL draft. Now, who will have the bigger role in 2021? Type R for DeMarcus Robinson, type P for Byron Pringle. I'd actually like to see Pringle get more reps. I thought he was pretty consistent in the playoffs. He's got better hands, in my opinion, as well. So I think I would like to type my P for Pringle on this one. We'll see what happens, but both these guys are back, and they'll probably have a pretty stiff competition once training camp rolls around in July and on into August. Now, we are presented by BetUS on today's show. The Sweet 16 picks back up tomorrow if you're watching on Friday. If you're watching on Saturday, get your bets in because there's money to be made. Chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. Use that promo code Chiefs125. I know you guys are bummed out about Kansas not advancing to the Sweet 16, but there's still good value out there. I like Loyola. They are 6.5 point favorites over Oregon State. Never bet against Sister Jean. That is my betting advice for you. Chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. Get that 125% deposit bonus when you use promo code Chiefs125. Now, let's get into the latest on Sammy Watkins here on the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. And The latest is he's probably going to be moving on to a new team. And this is not really a major surprise. This is something we've discussed before as in the past because he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. Here's what we know. The Ravens have interest after he visited with him earlier this week. He's also met with the Colts, so he's drawing interest from multiple teams that are out there. He's moving on, and I think we already knew this. I think we knew this when he couldn't even get back for the playoffs, couldn't even, he suited up for the Super Bowl, but I think he played like 10 snaps. He was never going to be a factor in that game. He certainly did some good things with the Chiefs, but the story of his Chiefs tenure more than anything is health. I mean, he played in 10 games last year, but really it was more like 7 or 8 because he left a couple of those very, very early. And when he was out there, really good number 2 receiver. But unless you're a true number 1, you don't want to deal with the amount of injuries that Sammy Watkins has had, and there's just been too many of those, which is why I did not expect him to come back, and now with how things are trending, I really don't think he's going to be back in the fold for the 2021 season with Kansas City. Now, are you upset about Watkins probably leaving? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'm really not. Like, get your votes in, but did some good things. He was, key in the 2019 Super Bowl run, but it's time to move on. His contract's up. Best of luck to him in his next opportunity. And again, the injuries. He just wasn't out there. Missed 6 games in 2018. Only missed 2 in 2019. That was his healthiest and his best season, by the way, especially when you factored in what he did in the playoffs. But this year, including the playoff run, he missed 9 games overall. We'll always appreciate that catch over Richard Sherman. We'll always appreciate 300 yards in 3 playoff games that year. He was clutch. At times, he was the Chiefs' number 1 wide receiver in that postseason run, but that's in the past. He's still a young player, but he's kind of an old 27 with the amount of injuries, a lot of soft tissue issues. I think he will be in a different uniform next season, and I think that's the smart thing for everyone around because the Chiefs can go get someone else, Sammy can get a fresh start elsewhere, and both sides can wipe themselves clean of that situation. So we'll see what happens with Sammy Watkins. Subscribe to the Kansas City Chiefs Report on YouTube. We're going to keep you guys up to date with the latest Chiefs news and rumors. I've been a little stretched thin at Chat Sports this week. NBA trade deadline, blockbuster trade involving a couple of other NFL teams, but our coverage will ramp back up. Don't worry about that. Just over a month away from the NFL draft. I'm going to cook up a new mock draft now that, picks have been swapping all over the place. Be on the lookout for that next week. YouTube.com/ChiefsTV. We are the place for you with the latest surrounding the Chiefs. Now, is Brett Veach under fire? Chiefs Twitter the last 7 to 10 days has just been out of control, and I wanted to give my 2 cents on this because, oh my God, Brett Veach, he can't seal the deal. He couldn't get Trent Williams, a couple of other guys. Well, let me remind you, he signed the best guard in free agency in Joe Thuney. He added Kyle Long when the Raiders made a strong push for him as well, so it's not like he's done nothing. Everybody relax. Like, I seriously saw a tweet from one of the bloggers at either Arrowhead Pride or Arrowhead Attic, which was like, Brett Veach better nail this year's draft after this failure of a free agency. And by the way, he hasn't drafted that well. He's had a lot of good draft picks, guys. Yeah, he's missed on some. His second-round picks haven't been great, but he had the guts to move up and go get some guy named Patrick Mahomes. That's pretty damn good to have on your resume. Everybody relax. No general manager is perfect. And let me just remind you as well, it's not Brett Veach's fault that Trent Williams, who publicly came out and said, hey, I was about to sign with Kansas City, called my boy Kyle Shanahan up and was like, hey, they're offering me major money. Can you match it? I like it in San Francisco. If you guys can match or give a little more, I'll go back to the Niners. Shanahan calls Lynch and they get it done. That's not on Brett Veach, guys. They were $20 million over the cap and found a way to offer Trent Williams over $20 million per year. That's good GMing. Like, that's pretty good job, and ultimately the player chose to go elsewhere. JuJu Smith-Schuster, he couldn't secure the deal, couldn't get Mahomes a number 2 receiver. JuJu took less money to go back to Pittsburgh to play with Noodle Arm Big Ben instead of Mahomes. Like, hey, if you like Pittsburgh that much, that's fine. That's not on Brett Veach, guys. He offered more. Like, he that's public knowledge. That's reported. JuJu took less to stay in Pittsburgh. Oh, but it's Brett Veach's fault. Guys, just relax a little bit. These players, you can't get everybody, especially when you already have a lot of contracts under your salary cap. And then, oh, Josh Reynolds couldn't sign him. He chose Tennessee. What do you want Veach to do about it? You're not going to overpay for Josh Reynolds. K'Wan Williams, he's comfortable in San Francisco. Just because these guys visit you on a free agent visit doesn't mean they're going to sign with your team. Melvin Ingram's still a free agent. It's still possible that they sign him. I'm seeing the tweets in my mind now. Melvin Ingram's left without a deal. All the Chiefs fans and bloggers on Twitter like, once again, Veach lets him slip. Like, guys, I trust Brett Veach. You should trust him as well. This guy has put together a roster that's gone to 2 Super Bowls in a row, and it should have been 3 if D4 didn't line up offsides. We're getting greedy here, guys. Like, relax. As long as Mahomes is in the fold, you're going to be fine. You got plenty of weapons. You still added Joe Thuney. There's good offensive linemen in the draft. This team is going to be just fine. Take a breath. It's going to be fine. Trust me. Grade Brett Veach as a general manager. We'll leave you guys with this question on today's show. A, B, C, D, or F? He's an A-. He's a good GM. Like every other GM, he misses on some guys, but that's just the nature of the business. He got Mahomes right. He's hit on several others. Get your grades in, and we'll see you next time.